All right. Good morning.
Hey, Karen, are you prepared to spend the rest of your life in prison, Karen? How's it feel to be known as a cop, Karen? How does it feel to be known as a cop, Karen? You're going to prison, aren't you, right? Do you have any remorse, Karen, for what you did to the O'Keefe family? Do you have any remorse, Karen, for what you did to the O'Keefe family, huh? Will you denounce your supporters harassing the O'Keefe family?
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay. How is everybody? Wow, wow, and more wow. Karen Reed finally got a taste of her own medicine in the form of a brutal greeting today at the courthouse by Jonathan Lee Riches. And we're going to look at the whole thing. And of course, she has to park way far away, 200 feet away from the courthouse. And today, she has never called off the dogs and has been alleged to be behind the O'Keefe family harassment. Non-supporters have been harassed at the courthouse. And she finally got some harassment herself. And it's hard to feel sorry for her. This is an accused murderer. And, you know, I've been talking on my podcast about how I'm really surprised at the way that our media treats convicted killers. Look at O.J. Simpson, given a great eulogy all around. The guy who said, "I'm not black, I'm O.J." Somehow now he was a great civil rights leader. They had to put up more black pictures and friends and black artifacts in his house before they led the jury through it. But now he's a great civil rights leader. I mean, that guy wasn't even convicted, but we all saw the trial, right? Amanda Knox, Rodney Reed, even in prison. They're treated like gold. So I'm really shocked. Damien Eccles, there's another one. You know, all you have to do is sprinkle around this magic word, innocence. And even with Karen Reed, the media, again, is making a big deal. She's always maintained her innocence. Hey, media, I got some news to tell you. They all do it. That's the norm to maintain your innocence. It's much more unusual to say I did it, to stand up and say I did it, certainly. So we're going to take a look at the actual footage. So let's just get into it. But before I do, I want to thank Dr. Zap. I'm getting this out of the way. LOL. Love Roberta's live together with all of you. Thanks so much, Dr. Zap. Appreciate it. It makes it possible your contributions make it possible for me to do these live streams. So appreciate it. So let's take a look at the footage. The trial may start tomorrow. They're looking at getting 20 jurors. That's how impossible Karen Reed and her PR team in the form of Aidan Kearney et al. Have made it for her to get a fair trial. And the fact that Aidan Kearney is cheering this on and telling potential jurors, just don't get caught, should really raise your eyebrow. But let's get into it. Let's look at Jonathan Lee Richards. He's a convicted felon himself. So it's a little bit like no heroes in this story, at least not for me. Let's check it out together, shall we?
All right. Good morning.
Hey, Karen, are you prepared to spend the rest of your life in prison, Karen? How does it feel to be known as a cop, Karen? How does it feel to be known as a cop, Karen? You're going to prison, aren't you, right? Do you have any remorse, Karen, for what you did to the O'Keefe family? Do you have any remorse, Karen, for what you did to the O'Keefe family, huh? Will you denounce your supporters harassing the O'Keefe family? Will you denounce your reporters harassing the O'Keefe family, Karen? Shame on you, Karen. That's what people say. Karen, anything to say, Karen? You're going to spend the rest of your life in here. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Karen, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, ain't you, Karen? Yeah, you are, Karen. Karen, you are, aren't you? Karen, watch out. Karen, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. Right, Karen? How's it feel to be known as a cop, Karen? How's it feel to be known as a cop, Karen? How does it feel to be known as a cop, Karen? How does it feel? How's it feel, Karen? How's it feel?
Karen, how did you manage to walk into Josh Levy's office in November of 2022?
So if you didn't notice, by the time she gets to Grant Smith Ellis questions, and I'm not sure where that crackle's coming from. It may be this audio on my copy of this, because I don't think you guys hearing, right? You're not hearing a crackle when I talk. I hope not. It may be a little crackle on this audio. My apologies. I didn't hear it while editing, but we're almost through it. There's a popping sound when I talk. All right, let me see if I may take a break right after this. Hold on one second. Let me take a quick break. Try to fix this popping sound. And I will be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. All right. We are back. I hope it's not still popping. I hope we're not still popping and crackling. But look how relieved she looks when we get to Grant Smith Ellis. She's like, woo, I was through the worst. She's like, his questions are nothing. His questions are at least polite. Not going to answer them, but at least they're polite.
Do you know him? Does your father? Jackson, did you go to Mexico with Melanie in the recent months?
Karen, aren't you? How's it feel to be a cop? Karen, how does it feel to be a cop? Karen, shame on you.
You know, I have to say, I can't feel sorry for Alan Jackson at all. They created all of this. All of this. They wanted this. They wanted other people to get this kind of treatment. Now it's all come back to bite them. And I'm feeling like her PR apparatus is collapsing. The facts are getting out there. And that's the thing. It's really hard to do a innocence fraud campaign on a really informed public. Now, there's always going to be a bunch of free Karen Reed people who are holding on to the dog bite and are holding on to things that they've been told. Go back to my last episode about Brian Koberger. There's a jury expert who says it's very hard once people hear a fact after they're told it's incorrect for them to let it go. They hold on to it. And I think it's very hard for people who really want to believe. I mean, it's much nicer story, I guess, in some ways, than the real story, that there's some kind of conspiracy, then someone would do this to someone else. Leave them out in the cold like that. Not only, use their car as a weapon, whether willingly or unwillingly, or being drunk or not being drunk, it's really hard to know. We're not in the mind of Karen Reed. Then to leave voice message after voice message, abusive voice message. But look at Alan Jackson. It's not going as planned. He knows this is the way that she's perceived. And they worked really hard. If you watch the opening, you saw that her arriving at court is all part of the Free Karen Reed movement with a lot of supporters. And there's allegations that there were ads out to pay people to stand with signs to make it look like she had much more support than she did. They certainly have a ton of sock puppets online, this group.
What you did to their teeth family. Shame on you, Karen.
How was the trip to Mexico with Melanie Little, Alan Jackson?
How was that trip? So if people are asking about that trip, this is something that Grant says Melanie Little put up on her Instagram, and it was given to him. She was in Mexico and other people say she was just there at the same time and was wondering if he went to a concert. But Grant Smith Ellis is sticking to his guns and saying they were in Mexico together. So hard to know. Hard to know the truth there. If Grant wants to send me some more information, a lot of nice comments about his interview the night before last. So that's the breakdown. And I wouldn't be surprised if if this happens more often now. Grant Smith Ellis in his interview said that there's less supporters outside the courthouse than there were, whether just by fact that they have to work or not. We may see the start of the trial tomorrow. Wanted to go over Tuesday Gazette had a really good summation of the facts in this case on her Substack. The link is in the description of this episode. I wanted to go over it with you. You can see I was reading it all the way at the bottom. The case against Karen Reed, note this is a layered case with multiple witnesses. Hold on, I have to cough. Witnesses, allegations, and assumptions. It's important to know the basic story outline before proceeding into all the other side stories spiraling online and in the community. And some are totally untrue, like they replaced the flooring in the basement. And the dog bite, even though the dog expert, terrible time for Melanie Little. I've mentioned this before. She had an expert, forensic expert, and she was saying, doesn't this look like a dog bite? Is no? Is it possible do you bleed after death? No. Are these abrasions? Yes, they are. So not such a good time for Melanie Little in that interview. He really didn't go as planned. So it's kind of interesting that the Free Karen Read movement has been having a lot of bumps this week, bumps along the road. Will it derail them? I don't know. Is it even possible for her to get a fair jury? That's what I'm wondering. The purpose of this article is to explain those basic bones of the case. So who is who? So she has here's Brian and Nicole Albert, John O'Keefe and Karen Read. They've been a couple for 2 years. And then they have her side love, the guy she's starting a flirtation with and kissing. I'd say an affair, at least an emotional affair. How deep it got, we don't really know. Under Brian and Nicole Albert, who are the homeowners, we have Brian Jr. and Caitlin Albert, Albert's kids, Colin Albert. Then we have the friends, Julie Nagel and Ryan Nagel, who are siblings. And of course, under John O'Keefe, he had adopted his sister's kids after her death and the death of her husband, very admirably. So here's John, niece and nephew. And on this side of Karen Read, we have her friend Carrie Roberts, Jen McCabe, and Jen McCabe's husband, Matt McCabe. So we get the relationships here. So the summary and sequence of events on the night of January 28th, 2022, Boston police officer John O'Keefe and his girlfriend of 2 years, Karen Read, went bar hopping with some friends and acquaintances in their local town of Canton, Mass. Bar goers left at different times, but John, who's the victim, John O'Keefe, and Karen, the defendant, left about the same time as John's good friend, Jen McCabe, and her husband, Matt McCabe. Jen invites John and Karen back to her sister's Nicole's home. Nicole and Brian Albert, John and Karen get into Karen's black Lexus SUV. Karen is driving. John and Matt McCabe get into their own vehicle. John texts Jen, "Where to?" Jen calls John back and gives him the address. Jen and Matt pull up to the Albert property first. They park in the driveway and they enter the home. Once Jen and Matt are in the house, I'm wondering, my memory, my notes is that Jen texted him the address and he called her asking, but I don't think it's really very asking, sort of more specifically where it's located. But I may be wrong. I have to check my notes. Once Jen and Matt are in the house, Karen and John pull up to the property with another vehicle following directly behind them as they turn onto Fairview Road where the residence is. Karen pulled up on the side of the road in front of the driveway. The vehicle behind her is a gray Ford truck with 3 adults, Ryan Nagel, Ryan's girlfriend Heather, and Richie the driver. Ryan Nagel is there to pick up his sister Julie Nagel. She comes out of the property and tells Ryan that she wants to stay later. She invites him and his friends in, but they decide to leave. And Ryan notices that Karen's SUV drives forward a bit and stops in front, the middle of the divide between the Albert property and their neighbor's property. Ryan Nagel reports he never saw John exit the vehicle. So they all see Karen at the driver's wheel, and they talk even about her hand position at 10 and 2. From arrival to driving away, Ryan Nagel states he was there for no longer than 5 minutes. Ryan reports that the snow was falling and sticking to the ground for about 30 minutes at that point. When Ryan drives away, he passes by Karen vehicles and glances over. He reports seeing a woman, here it is, looking forward, hands on steering wheel, center, lights on. He's asked if he sees someone in the passenger side, and he said he did not notice another person. So here's the call log. And then afterwards, Jen McCabe is expecting, she says, pull in behind me. She's texting John O'Keefe and then is texting him, hello, hello, and getting no answer. So Karen has John's nieces and called Jen McCabe, no answer until Jen dials 911 at 6:04. Here are the times and call logs between John, victim, and his friend Jen McCabe. Jen McCabe is wondering why John and Karen have not come into the house. She continues to call and text John over a span of 20 minutes. Jen reports looking out the window and seeing the SUV pull forward at one point, just like witness Ryan Nagel also reported. Jen eventually sees that Karen's SUV is gone. Jen's husband, Matt, reports seeing tire tracks in a V shape, which leads us to the conclusion that Karen made an unnecessary 3-point turn to head home. While at 34 Fairview Road, so here's the, please look at these supporting documents. So this one says, while at 34 Fairview Road, Matthews stated he observed a big, dark SUV parked right outside of the house. Matthew stated he was making these observations from the front door. Matthew stated he looked out the front window and observed the same big, dark SUV had moved to the other side of the property, approximately 15 to 20 feet. Matthew was not sure how long the vehicle was outside for, but he did not hear any loud noises or screaming from inside. Matthew stated both times he observed the vehicle on the street. The headlights were facing Chapman Street. Matthew stated he observed the tracks in the snow on the street in front of the house. Matthew described the pattern as a wave or V-shaped pattern. Okay. Jen and Matt leave the Albert property around 1:30. They give Julie Nagel a ride home on the way. Karen states in her Nightline interview, linked at the bottom of this article, and we're going to watch it again, that she safely dropped John off at the Albert property and headed back to his house. Fell asleep around 1:30 and woke up before 5 a.m., noticing John was not home. She says she decided to drive around town in a 2-mile radius for about 20 minutes and look for John outside in the snow. She does not mention driving back to the Albert property to look for John, does not say why she assumed he was out in the snow in the middle of the night. Right? Why would she be looking for him? Lucky the snowplow driver makes several passes that night down Fairview Road. He reports not witnessing any man lying in the snow on the front side of the property and is sure he would have noticed a body. Lucky the snowplow driver says that at 3:30 or 4 a.m., he was on Cedar Crest Road, passing by Fairview Road. He glanced down the street and saw the back of a Ford Edge or something similar parked on the side of the road where the body would later be found. He said the vehicle was not there earlier when he did his passes on that road. Karen states that she was also driving around town in a 2-mile radius looking for John somewhere around the 4 a.m. time frame. So here's Mr. Logren describes the vehicle as a Ford Edge or something similar. So here's Ford Edge, and here's a Lexus looking very similar. Karen arrives back at John's house again and wakes up his 14-year-old niece. The niece has Jen McCabe's phone number, so Karen has her call Jen. The call is made at 4:53 a.m. According to John's niece, Karen's story about John changes several times. When speaking with Jen, Karen is panicked. Ring footage from John's property captures Karen's SUV exiting the garage to drive over to Jen's house. Her SUV appears to come in possible contact with John's parked vehicle. This is a video that many people debate over. Did her SUV taillight actually crack from this incident? No shards of red plastic, this is important, are seen in the snow from this footage. Police later examined the area and John's vehicle, stating no signs of damage. And you can see that it's messed up on that video. Karen arrives at Jen's house at around 5:30 a.m. Then Jen drives Karen's vehicle back to John's house with her. They arrive back at John's house around 5:45 a.m. and John's friend Carrie met there. So that's Carrie Roberts. They all checked to make sure John was actually not at his home. They then proceeded to get into Carrie's car and look for John back at the Albert property. Jen and Carrie state, and this is her friends, that Karen was frantic on the drive there and were making remarks like, "Could I have hit him? And look at my crack in my taillight. There is a crack in it." Right, so here's the Albert's house. Jen stated at the time that it was snowing heavily with wind blowing, creating poor visibility. Karen in the passenger seat. So Carrie's driving. Jen and Karen in the passenger side back seat. So Jen's in the front seat. As the women drive up to Fairview, Karen, who is in the back passenger seat, is the first to see John laying in the snow. Karen and Carrie attempted CPR, and Jen McCabe calls 911 at 6:03. EMS and law enforcement arrive within minutes. Karen yells at Jen McCabe to Google how long to die in the cold. This Google search has been highly debated by people. The theory is that the last tab open timestamp at 2:27 was when Jen Googled the infamous Haas long to die in cold, meaning she knew John was deceased before he was found, thus leading to a murder cover-up. Prosecution say that the FBI and Celebrate, forensic digital expert concluded that the search was after 6 a.m., just like witness Jen reports. However, defense say FBI reports it did happen at 2:27. Trial will hopefully clear this up. So my understanding is that this was done with an older, the 2:27, is that they opened, that's when she opened her browser at 2:27, and those searches happened at, I believe it's 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. John is not pronounced dead on scene. EMS load John into the ambulance and leaves immediately for the hospital. His body temp is around 80 degrees. Karen makes statements to her parents that she wants to end it all on the phone. So due to state law, she is transported to the hospital to be checked and treated. Her blood alcohol level taken at 9:08 when she was admitted, and it was 0.07 and 0.08. Forensic toxicologists conclude from this that Karen's BAC was 0.13 to 0.29% at the time she was parked outside of the Albert property. After being at the hospital for almost 2 hours, John is pronounced deceased at 7:50 a.m. While at the hospital, Karen tells her dad that she remembers she struck something. And we're going to look at her parents' interview. After EMS left the scene, law enforcement went to the Albert property to speak with the homeowners. Search team was later called in that day to help search the area for any more evidence. They found John's second shoe. The other one was still on his foot. And they located shards of red taillight pieces under the snow around where John's body was located in the morning. When law enforcement first arrived at the scene earlier that morning, they found clear shards from John's cocktail glass he was holding, captured on video while leaving the bar. So she says that was a lot of info and it's just bare bones, but that just gives you an idea of what we're talking about here when we talk about this case. Maui Swift, thanks so much. Thanks for your great report on this crazy case. You're welcome, Maui Swift. Jill Downey, thanks so much for the super sticker. Kathy Chapin, thanks for your coverage. You're welcome, Kathy. Thank you very much. Appreciate it so much. Jackie Joe 15, thanks for the super sticker. We got a new member, Elaine S. Welcome to the club. Nadia, nice to see you. Thank you for covering this case and supporting the real victims. You're welcome, Nadia. All right, so I wanted to look at Karen's Nightline interview again. And now that I have a little bit more knowledge of the case, it's even more bizarre to me. So I thought we'd all sort of remind myself, this is Karen Reed in her own words. So let's take a look at it together. The beginning should become familiar, be familiar to you guys, right? This woman in the white hat, I think she's so bizarre.
Outside this courthouse in Canton, Massachusetts, supporters swarmed around Karen Reed, charged with murder in January 2022 death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Reed has...
Psych nurse, 20 to life for second degree. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I've heard too. Psych nurse. Thanks so much. En masse for felony murder. Yeah. It's a serious charge. And I think you can see that she was scared. I mean, we can watch it again if you want. But she looked pretty frightened today and alone. Where are all her supporters? There's just a few of them. Now, Aidan Kearney wants to charge, or wanted the police to charge, Jonathan Lee Riches. Get the police involved for being on a public street. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how that goes. But certainly anyone who's spoken out, Kate from Masshole Troll Mafia, he got a restraining order. I mean, just ridiculously. So it's very much like Scientology, using the court system to punish people in this case. Very scary. One of the scariest innocence campaigns I've seen. They're all very dark, but this one is particularly dark. Actually booing, harassing the victim's family. Shame on these people. And if you don't think that reflects on Karen Reed's character, I don't know what world you're living in. Because she's been totally okay. She had her moment. Let's watch it again. Let's just watch it before I go. Let's watch it one more time.
Good morning.
Hey, Karen, are you prepared to spend the rest of your life in prison, Karen? How's it feel to be known as a cop killer? How does it feel to be known as a cop killer? you're going to prison, aren't you? Right? Do you have any remorse, Karen, for what you did to the O'Keefe family? Do you have any remorse, Karen, for what you did to the O'Keefe family, huh? Will you denounce your supporters harassing the O'Keefe family? Will you denounce your reporters harassing the O'Keefe?
So there she is. She's moving in and out, trying to get to the center of her lawyers and get behind the people. So there's Tom, one of her supporters. Don't know who this woman is, but the pink shoes says she's a supporter. If I had to guess.
Karen, shame on you, Karen. That's what people say.
Karen,
Anything to say, Karen? You're going to spend the rest of your life in here. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Karen, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, ain't you, Karen? Yeah, you are, Karen. Karen, you are, aren't you?
Very narcissistic. She doesn't like this. She doesn't like feeling shame, being publicly shamed like this. This was not pleasant for her. If you think she didn't care about this, I don't agree. This bothered her.
Karen, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. Right, Karen? How's it feel to be known as a cop killer, Karen? How's it feel to be known as a cop killer, Karen? How does it feel to be known as a cop killer, Karen? How does it feel? How's it feel, Karen? How's it feel?
Karen, how did you manage to walk into Josh Levy's office in November of 2022?
Look at the relief on her face. Look, she's smiling there. She's finally away from him for a second. Relief when she hears Grant Smith Ellis's questions.
Do you know him? Does your father?
Karen, how's it feel to be a cop killer?
Jackson, did you go to Mexico with Melanie in the recent months?
Karen, aren't you? How's it feel to be a cop, Karen? How does it feel to be a cop?
I mean, practically sprinting into the courtroom today. So there we go. So that's what I have for today. Hopefully the trial will start maybe tomorrow. They're off Friday, so maybe Monday. I would guess Monday. I'd be surprised if it started tomorrow, but I've been surprised before. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this episode, leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see some opening statements. Let's cross our fingers. If not, next week. Have a great night, everybody.